In the dead of night, at 2 a.m., the quiet of a modest Minneapolis neighborhood shattered. Sirens pierced the air, and the heavy thud of boots echoed as police officers descended on a small, well-kept house on 23rd Avenue North. They were armed with a no-knock warrant, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, guns drawn, ready to confront a suspected drug trafficker. But inside, Aisha Thompson, a 34-year-old black woman, a nurse and a mother of two, was fast asleep, unaware that her life was about to be turned upside down. The police had the wrong address. They didn't know who was inside. And what unfolded in those chaotic moments would leave a community questioning the system, a family traumatized, and a city grappling with the fallout of yet another botched raid. Aisha Thompson had lived in her home for 5 years. It was a place she'd worked hard to make her own, a sanctuary for her and her children Malik, 12, and Jada, 8. She'd grown up in Minneapolis, seen the city's struggles with crime and policing, but never imagined her own front door would become a battleground. That night, she'd tucked her kids into bed after a long shift at the hospital, her scrubs still folded neatly on the dresser. She was exhausted, her body heavy with the weight of a 12-hour day, and she'd fallen into a deep sleep by midnight. The house was quiet, save for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the old wooden floors. Outside, the police were preparing. The warrant they carried was based on a tip from a confidential informant, a man known to the department only as CI-47. He'd claimed that a major drug operation was running out of a house on 23rd Avenue North, number 1427. The informant had described a man in his 20s, heavily tattooed, driving a red sedan, as the primary suspect. The police had surveilled the address for 2 days, noting a red car parked in the driveway. That was enough for the judge to sign off on the no-knock warrant, a tool designed for high-risk situations where evidence might be destroyed or officers' lives could be at stake. But the surveillance was cursory. The red car belonged to Aisha's neighbor, who often parked in her driveway when his own was full. The police hadn't verified the occupant's identity. They hadn't even checked the property records. At 2:03 a.m., the SWAT team assembled at the end of the block. 8 officers, clad in black tactical gear, moved silently toward the house. Officer Daniel Carter, a 15-year veteran, led the team. He'd executed dozens of no-knock warrants, each one a high-stakes operation where split-second decisions could mean life or death. The team had been briefed. Expect resistance, possibly armed. The informant had mentioned guns, though no specifics were provided. Carter signaled to his team, and they approached the front door, battering ram in hand. The plan was simple: breach, secure, search. They had no idea Aisha and her children were inside. Inside, Aisha stirred at the first sound, a faint thud like a car door slamming. She blinked into the darkness, her heart picking up speed. Then came the crash, a deafening boom as the front door splintered under the force of the ram. Aisha bolted upright, her mind racing. Was it a break-in? A robbery? She scrambled out of bed, her bare feet hitting the cold floor, and grabbed her phone from the nightstand. Before she could dial 911, shouts filled the house. "Police! Get down! Get down now!" Flashlights blinded her as figures in black stormed into her bedroom, their rifles pointed at her chest. Aisha froze, her hands instinctively rising. "What's happening?" she cried, her voice trembling. "Who are you?" The officers didn't answer. One grabbed her arm, pulling her to the floor. Her phone clattered to the ground. In the next room, Malik and Jada woke to the chaos, their screams cutting through the shouts of the officers. "Mom! Mom!" Malik yelled, his voice cracking with fear. Aisha's heart pounded as she tried to turn toward her children, but a gloved hand pressed her down. "Stay down!" an officer barked. "Where's the suspect?" "There's no suspect here," Aisha shouted, her voice raw. "This is my house. My kids are here." The officers exchanged glances, their movements slowing for a fraction of a second. Officer Carter, standing in the doorway, scanned the room. No drugs, no weapons, just a terrified woman in pajamas and the sound of children crying. His radio crackled. "Carter, we got kids in the back room." No male suspect. Aisha's words echoed in his head. This is my house. Something was wrong. The raid had been planned with precision, but it unraveled in seconds. The officers had expected to find a drug dealer, maybe a stash of cocaine or meth, maybe a gunfight. Instead, they found Aisha, her face streaked with tears, her hands shaking as she pleaded for her children. Malik and Jada were huddled in the hallway, an officer standing over them, his rifle lowered but still menacing. "Please don't hurt my kids," Aisha said, her voice breaking. "We didn't do anything." Carter radioed for the team to stand down, but the damage was already done. The house was in disarray. Drawers yanked open, furniture overturned, a family photo frame shattered on the floor. As the officers regrouped, Aisha's fear turned to anger. "Why are you here?" she demanded, pulling herself to her feet. "You broke into my home. You scared my kids." Carter, his face unreadable behind his tactical mask, held up a hand. "Ma'am, we have a warrant for this address. Suspected drug activity." Aisha's eyes widened. "Drugs? There's no drugs here. I'm a nurse. I work at St. Mary's Hospital." She gestured to the scrubs on her dresser, the hospital ID badge clipped to her purse. The officers shifted uncomfortably, their confidence wavering. Carter pulled the warrant from his vest and read the address aloud. 1427 23rd Avenue North. Aisha shook her head. "That's my address, but there's no drugs here. You've got the wrong house." The realization hit Carter like a punch. He'd seen this before. Bad intel, rushed surveillance, a judge too quick to sign off. But this was different. This was a mother and her children, caught in the crosshairs of a system that didn't double-check its work. He ordered his team to search the house, more out of protocol than expectation. They found nothing. No drugs, no guns, just a family's belongings scattered like debris after a storm. By 2:30 a.m., the officers were outside, their flashlights dimmed, their voices low. Aisha sat on her couch, Malik and Jada clinging to her, their faces buried in her arms. She tried to soothe them, but her own hands trembled. The lead detective, Sarah Nguyen, arrived to take statements. Nguyen, a 10-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department, had seen her share of botched raids. She approached Aisha cautiously, notepad in hand. "Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry for the distress this caused. Can you tell me what happened from your perspective?" Aisha's voice was steady now, fueled by outrage. "You people broke into my home in the middle of the night, pointed guns at me and my kids, and tore my house apart for no reason. That's what happened. I want to know why." Nguyen explained the warrant, the informant's tip, the red car. Aisha's jaw tightened. "That car belongs to my neighbor Jamal. He parks in my driveway sometimes. Did you even check who lives here?" Nguyen didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence was damning. The raid was over, but its impact lingered. Aisha couldn't sleep that night or the next. Every creak in the house made her jump. Every passing car felt like a threat. Malik started having nightmares, waking up screaming about men with guns. Jada stopped talking for days, her usual chatter replaced by a haunted silence. Aisha took time off work, unable to focus, her trust in the system shattered. She'd always taught her kids to respect the police, to see them as protectors. Now she didn't know what to tell them. Word of the raid spread quickly. By morning, neighbors were gathered outside Aisha's house, offering support, sharing their own stories of police overreach. Jamal, the neighbor with the red car, was furious. "I told them that was my car," he said, shaking his head. "They didn't listen." The community was no stranger to police mistakes. Minneapolis had been under scrutiny since the murder of George Floyd 5 years earlier, with protests and reforms exposing deep flaws in the department. But for Aisha's neighbors, this was personal. It was their street, their friend, their kids. Aisha contacted a lawyer, Karen Mitchell, who specialized in civil rights cases. Mitchell had seen cases like this before. Wrong address raids, no-knock warrants gone awry, families left to pick up the pieces. She met with Aisha the next day, sitting at the kitchen table amid the chaos of the raid's aftermath. "They violated your rights," Mitchell said, her voice firm. "The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches. A no-knock warrant requires solid evidence, not some vague tip from an informant." Aisha nodded, but her mind was on her kids. "I just want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else," she said. "And I want them to fix my door." Mitchell filed a complaint with the Minneapolis Police Department's Office of Police Conduct Review, demanding an investigation into the raid. She also prepared a lawsuit against the city, alleging excessive force, emotional distress, and violation of Aisha's constitutional rights. The case drew attention from local activists, who saw it as another example of systemic bias in policing. "This doesn't happen in white neighborhoods," said Marcus Tate, a community organizer who rallied outside the police station. "A black woman, a nurse, a mom, gets her home torn apart because of sloppy police work. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern." The police department issued a statement, calling the raid a regrettable error, and promising a full review. But behind closed doors, tensions were high. Officer Carter was haunted by the image of Aisha's terrified face, the sound of her children crying. He'd followed protocol, but protocol had failed. He met with his supervisor, Captain Robert Ellis, to debrief. "The informant's tip was bad," Carter admitted. "We should have done more homework." Ellis sighed, rubbing his temples. "We followed the warrant. The judge signed off. What else could we do?" But Carter wasn't so sure. He'd seen the look in Aisha's eyes, the betrayal. It wasn't just about the warrant. It was about trust. The investigation into the raid revealed a cascade of failures. By 47, the informant had a history of unreliable tips, often trading information for leniency on his own charges. The surveillance team had noted the red car but failed to confirm its owner. The address on the warrant was correct, but the description of the suspect, a young man with tattoos, didn't match anyone in Aisha's household. The judge who signed the warrant, Patricia Holmes, admitted she'd relied on the police affidavit without questioning its details. "We trust the officers to provide accurate information," she said in a statement. But that trust had been misplaced. Aisha's story made the local news, sparking outrage. Reporters camped outside her house, asking for interviews. She declined most, wary of turning her trauma into a spectacle. But she spoke at a community meeting, her voice steady as she addressed a packed room at the local rec center. "I'm not a criminal," she said. "I'm a mom, a nurse, a taxpayer. But that night I was treated like a threat. My kids were treated like a threat. That's not justice." The crowd erupted in applause, their anger and solidarity palpable. The lawsuit gained traction. Mitchell uncovered similar cases across the country. Wrong address raids, disproportionately affecting Black and Latino communities. A 2020 report from the American Civil Liberties Union found that no-knock warrants were used more often in minority neighborhoods, often with minimal oversight. In Minneapolis alone, 80% of no-knock warrants from 2015 to 2020 targeted Black households, despite Black residents making up only 19% of the population. "This isn't just about Aisha," Mitchell told reporters. "It's about a system that keeps getting it wrong." As the case moved forward, Aisha struggled to rebuild. She fixed the front door, but the emotional scars were harder to mend. Malik refused to sleep alone, and Jada clung to her mother's side, afraid to be out of sight. Aisha sought counseling for them, dipping into her savings to cover the costs. She also joined a support group for families affected by police misconduct, finding solace in shared stories. "It's like we're all carrying the same weight," she told the group one evening, her voice soft but resolute. "But we're not giving up."